You've finally finished designing your first computer and you're feeling pleased with yourself. You've designed something that looks really good. You've got a graphics screen, you've got the actual computer. When you drop down into the computer, you come down to the motherboard. The motherboard's got a CPU, it's got some ROM, it's got RAM, it's got expansion ports for cards. When you drop down into the CPU, you've got an arithmetic logic unit, you've got all of your registers, you've got a control unit, you've even got a floating point unit. When you drop into the control section, you have a micro-coded control section, and this is the micro-coded ROM here. So you take your computer and you show it to all of your friends, and they all say, "That is amazing." But then someone sticks their hand up and says, "But what does it do?" And the answer to that at the moment is, it does absolutely nothing. We need software. This video is about designing the software for our computer. The most difficult and the most fundamental way of writing software is directly in machine code. So we could write the zeros and the ones that the machine understands. And we can do that if we drop into the computer and then drop into the RAM, where we store all of our programs. Now you'll see here we've got 4 bits, but each of these actually represent another 4 bits because they're in hex. So in effect what we've got here is 16 zeros and ones, but it's written in hex, so you only see 4 of them. Now if I wanted to, I could put in an instruction. So the first instruction I could put in is 0100, and then I could put in the number 5, and then I could put in the number 5800. So the first one is the data instruction. The next one is just a number. And then the next one is the end instruction. So what this does is it'll put the number 5 in register R0. So we'll let this run. When we press go, you'll see it puts 5 in register R0, and this is the end of the program. So this is a very inefficient way of writing programs. We would need to know all of the zeros and the ones that we require to actually do anything. In this machine here, we would have to take all of the zeros and ones and then change it into hex and then type the hex in. So we don't want to do this. What we want to do is we want to take all of the zeros and ones and then generate a little mnemonic for that. That is, we want to generate an instruction set. So let's look at the instruction set for this machine. So this is our entire instruction set. You can see the first one, 0100, which is the data command, which we have just seen. But we've also got a compare, we've got load, store, jump to subroutine, push, pop, move, and lots of other instructions. So it's much easier for us to write the code in this assembly language using our instructions. And then we can convert it from assembly language to the machine code using an assembler. So here is an example of some of our assembly language. This little piece of code takes 2 numbers, adds them together, and stores the result in a memory location. Now, we're not going to go through all of the details about the assembly language. We just know that we've generated a little language here that uses our commands. So you can see the data command here, you can see the load commands, the add, the store, and the end. So we can write our code in this language. And then in order to put it into the machine code, we can go to terminal, run task, and we can assemble this. So when we assemble it, you see at the bottom it says assembly successful. So what has happened is it's taken this code here and it's generated the machine code. So we can drop into the machine code for this program, which is this one here, and you'll see the machine code being generated, and we've generated 2, 5, B000, and so on and so forth. So this is the actual machine code that we use to run the program. Now, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. You can also get me on Patreon. So let's look at this piece of code here. We've got the data command and we've got 0.78539 and we put that into register R0. We then come down to this line here and it says JSR float underscore C sign. So what we want to do here is we want to generate the sign of this value 0.78539. So how do you generate the sign of a function in your computer? Well, your computer has got no idea how to do it. You have to tell it. So that is, we have to write this piece of code somewhere and we have to store it somewhere so that we can go and get easy access to it every time we want to run it. So where do we store it? We store it in the mathematics library. The mathematics library is just a big file where we keep all of our mathematics functions. So whereabouts is this float underscore C sign? Well, we can see it's up here. It tells us we generate this thing called an assembler directive, which is EQU, which really just means equal. So what we're saying is the word float underscore C sign equals this address 0x5430. So where is 0x5430? Well, this is in the ROM. So let's go and have a look in the ROM and see if we can find this piece of code which generates the sign of a function. So let's drop into the ROM and we're looking for 5430. So this is 5430 here, and you'll notice we've only got 1, 2, 3, 4 instructions. Does that sound right? We can generate a sign function from 4 instructions. Well, if we want to find out what's going on, we actually have to go in and look at the library file. So let's go do that now. So we have a few libraries. The one we're interested in for this mathematics sign function is the floating point library. So you can see here we've got floatpointlib.asm. Now this contains all of our floating point functions. And if you head up to the very top, we should find one that says float underscore C sign, and you can see that 5430. So we could do Control F and we'll look for 0x5430, and the next time it appears is down here, and you can see we really do only have a single instruction here. But this single instruction is also telling us to jump to another subroutine. So the other subroutine is also within this library and it's called float underscore fold. So what this actually does is it takes a number, and in order to find the sign of it, it has to reduce the value down to an angle that's between -90 and +90, and we do this with this other routine here called float underscore fold. So again, we could come back up here and we could have a look up and see if we can find float underscore fold. So here's float underscore fold here, and it's in 0x50B0. So we can put in 50B0, hit return, and you see that we're now down in this function here. Now this function here is the fold function, and you can see it's relatively detailed. Now whenever it's finished the float fold, you've got this return here. So it returns up to the calling function. So the calling function was in 5430. So it goes back to 5430 and it goes back to just the very next line. So the very next line here is C sign R0 R0. So we actually do have a single function for a single command for the sign function. And the C stands for chordic, and we generate this sign function using our chordic unit. So what's going to happen here is it's going to run through and generate the sign of the function, and it's going to place the value in register R0. And then it's going to do the return. So it returns up to where it was this function here, this subroutine was called from. So this subroutine was called from the actual program. So where is the actual program? Our original program is sitting in the RAM, and this is the program here. So we start off at this point here with this instruction, and one of these instructions is a jump to subroutine, and it's going to jump to 5430, which is in the ROM. So we go from the RAM here and we get into the ROM, and we go to 5430, and this is part of our floating point library. And when we get here, we jump again to subroutine to another function which is called our fold function, which is in position 50B0. So again we come down here to 50, in fact it's further up here, isn't it? We go to 50 and then we get to B0, and this is this program here. So these instructions here are all the fold instructions. And we get to the end, and when we get to the end we then return back to the calling function. So we got to return back to 5430. So we return back to 5430, and then we return back from this one back to the original program, which is in the RAM. So we return back to here, and then we finish the program. So the floating point library has got all of these functions here, which we can get access to using the jump to subroutine instruction. And all of the code you can see here. Now the floating point library isn't the only library we've got. We've also got a fixed point library. We've got a graphics library. We've got a string library. And we have a BIOS, which is a basic input-output system library. If we didn't have library files, then a computer would be very difficult to program, and it would be almost useless. Now if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. You can also get me on Patreon. So thank you for listening. I'll get you on the next video. Goodbye.